The stars over Station Helix Prime shimmered like frozen sparks, but inside, tension simmered. Ambassadors from dozens of alien species had gathered in the main summit hall, their strange bodies reflecting every color of the light crystal dome above. This place was neutral ground, no wars, no weapons, no threats. Or so they believed. The summit was about Earth. Again, some wanted to lift the 400-year restriction and welcome humans into the galactic community. Others still called Earth dangerous, primitive, unpredictable. Most believed humanity would never make it far enough to matter. They were all wrong. Without warning, every comm screen across the station blinked black. Conversations stopped. Delegates turned, puzzled. Then a single sentence appeared, glowing in soft white letters. "You forgot why you locked the door. We remember." Silence fell. No sender ID. No location. No warning. High Ambassador Trell, a long-limbed being from the Archon Dominion, hissed low through her 3 mouths. "Is this a threat?" "It's a prank," another delegate muttered. "Or some test glitch." But Kale knew better. He was the youngest tactician ever appointed to the council. Small for his kind, sharp-eyed, and always listening. While others looked confused or annoyed, he frowned. The message wasn't just strange, it was surgical. It bypassed encryption, accessed secure feeds, and left no trace in the system logs. Nothing, not even council-grade AI, should be able to do that. Kale quietly slid a data wand from his cloak and inserted it into his wrist console. He began scanning the summit network for anomalies. A minute later, he found something impossible. The message hadn't come from outside the station. It had come from inside. He leaned forward in his seat, heart pulsing faster. "Counselor Parn," he whispered to his mentor, a heavy-set elder beside him. "We've been breached." Parn chuckled without looking up. "It's a technical glitch, Kale. Relax." But Kale didn't. His fingers flew across his interface. He wasn't chasing a signal, he was chasing a ghost. Elsewhere on the station, in a forgotten maintenance tunnel near the lower ring, a shape moved in the shadows. It wasn't a council worker. It wasn't any known species. It wore a suit the color of space. Its movements made no sound. And when it reached the maintenance hub, it opened a panel without tools, without hesitation, and tapped once into the station's hidden network. Inside the summit chamber, the message changed. "For 100 years. You still think we haven't caught up?" Now the room erupted. "Who is this?" shouted an insectoid delegate from Hive Zone 7. "This is an attack," hissed another. "Security." Kale stood. "We need to lock the chamber down. Now." But it was already too late. Far above, orbiting the station in what should have been empty vacuum, a shadow flickered. No scanners had picked it up. No alerts had sounded. It wasn't huge. It wasn't loud. It was just there. A human ship. Not one of the old Earth transport models the Council had studied centuries ago. This ship was different. It looked like it had been carved from silence itself. Black, angular, designed not to be seen but to know everything that saw it. Its name, printed only in low reflective letters along the side, read, INS Revenant. Inside the Revenant, General Sarah Wynne watched the summit hall through dozens of screens. She stood tall, calm, arms behind her back. The crew around her barely spoke. They knew their orders. Observe. Wait. Speak only when ready. Sarah's voice was cool and steady. Patch into their secure frequency, she said. Let's say hello properly. Kale, still standing in the summit chamber, blinked as his personal console lit up. A private message flashed across the screen, one only he could see. You're the only one who looked deeper. We're listening. His breath caught. He looked around the room. No one else saw it. No one else knew. He stared at the screen again. We don't want war. We want the truth. Will you help us write it? The screen went dark. And then came the third message, broadcast across all frequencies, in every language spoken on the station. You watched. You waited. You mocked. Now we show you what humans really are. And just like that, the Revenant disappeared again from every scanner. Gone as if it had never been there. But Kale knew better. The humans weren't arriving. They were already here. Kale left the summit hall with the others, but his mind wasn't on the shouting or the panic. His steps were quick, eyes locked on the data stream running across his wrist console. The humans were inside the station. He was sure of it now. The message, "You're the only one who looked deeper. We're listening," still echoed in his head. It was personal. That scared him more than the breach itself. He didn't know how they knew who he was. He didn't know how they bypassed layers of encryption that even he couldn't break. But one thing was clear. They hadn't done this to cause panic. They were sending a message. Kale reached a secure terminal on the upper level, locked the door behind him, and activated a deep trace scan. Nothing showed up. The humans had left no trace again. The computer ran quiet for several minutes. Kale tapped his fingers against the table, thinking. 400 years ago, when Earth was placed under the isolation accord, the Council said it was for their protection. That humans were too unstable, too young, too warlike. But Kale had always been curious. He'd read old records, some declassified, others hidden in digital vaults he wasn't supposed to access. And something had never added up. Earth's technological rise was too fast, too strange. They'd gone from oil-burning cars to orbital satellites in less than a century. They created AI before half the galaxy knew what code was. Then nothing. No space fleet. No outreach. No attempts to break isolation. Until now. His trace scan finally beeped. Kale leaned in. Signal origin, maintenance shaft C19. His heart's beat faster. That shaft wasn't used anymore. No regular staff had access to it. He opened the station map and highlighted the shaft. Then he saw it. Security cameras had gone offline for exactly 3.2 minutes around the time of the message. Cameras that never went offline. Kale stood, locking his console. He sent a silent ping to Security Division, requesting access to the shaft logs. But before he could move, his console blinked. Incoming private message. He hesitated, then tapped it open. Still listening, still watching. Curious what you'll do next. No source. Kale felt a cold knot in his stomach. They were watching him in real time. He tapped out a reply. Who are you? There was no answer. He sighed, rubbed his forehead, and stared at the map again. Meanwhile, deep beneath the station, inside a sealed service compartment lit only by soft blue displays, two figures sat watching Kale from a screen. They wore matte black suits with no insignia. One of them leaned back and smiled. Curious one, that alien. We picked the right mind. The other nodded. Directive from command. Don't spook him. He might be key. Outside their hidden room, the hum of the station's core echoed faintly. The humans had hacked deep, far deeper than anyone believed possible. And they had been here for days. Back in the central chamber, chaos still ruled. Ambassadors argued, security bots flew overhead, and the station's leadership struggled to control the narrative. High Counselor Lauren floated into the room, her shimmering form pulsing with distress. We have no confirmation of threat, she shouted. There is no known human vessel within range. No evidence. But the messages, someone barked. The shadow outside. You saw it. Hallucinations, another replied. Static interference. Earth can't even reach this far. Then Kale walked back into the room. They can. The council fell silent. Every eye turned to him. Kale held up his wrist console. The messages came from inside. I tracked the signal. It originated from a dead shaft near the fusion core. He paused, letting that sink in. There's something else. They reached out to me directly. Murmurs broke out. Why you? Asked Counselor Reith, her scales shifting uneasily. I don't know, Kale admitted. But they're not acting like a threat. They're testing us. Watching how we react. Counselor Lauren moved closer. If they're inside the station, we must find them. Detain them. Kale shook his head. You won't. They've already moved. More murmurs. They're more advanced than we thought, he continued. And they've been preparing. Quietly. Watching us as closely as we watched them. Why now? someone asked. Kale looked at the crowd. His voice was low, calm. Because we judged them too early, and they're here to correct that. In a far corner of the station, unseen and unheard, the Revenant hovered just outside visual range. Its stealth systems absorbed all scans. Its weapons were offline. For now. On the bridge, General Wynn stared at the summit chamber feed. They're beginning to understand, she said quietly. The Revenant didn't move. It didn't speak. It just waited. The game had started, and humanity had made the first move. The Earth was quiet, but it was not asleep. Far below the orbiting moons and distant satellites, deep inside a hidden base beneath the Pacific Ocean, Earth's most secret command center pulsed with soft blue light. General Sarah Wynn stood in front of a massive display showing the layout of Station Helix Prime. She wore a gray uniform, simple and sharp, and her face showed no fear, only focus. The Revenant has entered Phase 2, said a voice behind her. She nodded without turning. Are we still invisible to their sensors? Completely. They don't even know how we got there. Sarah gave a thin smile. Good. Let's keep it that way. The room around her was filled with quiet activity. Dozens of officers sat at consoles, monitoring everything from alien communication bands to long-range scan feeds. No one spoke louder than necessary. No alarms sounded. But the pressure in the room was thick. We've waited 400 years for this, said her second-in-command, Colonel Reyes. I still can't believe they're finally talking. Sarah glanced at him. They're not talking yet. They're still watching, still judging. Like always. Then what's our next step? Sarah turned back to the screen. We remind them what humans are. Not with firepower. Not yet. With proof. The screen changed. It showed Kale, the young alien tactician from the summit, pacing alone in a hallway, speaking into a hidden communicator. The audio feed played softly. I want direct access to Station Core. No, I'm not trying to start a panic. I'm trying to stop one. He's the smart one, Sarah said. He's thinking, not reacting. That makes him the only one worth talking to. Should we contact him directly? Not yet. She tapped the screen. We let him chase the truth a little longer. Let him find what we left. Colonel Reyes tilted his head. What exactly did we leave? Sarah smiled again. A door. And a choice. Back on Station Helix Prime, Kale walked quickly down a dim corridor. He had bypassed 2 security checkpoints and silenced 3 alerts. He was deep inside the station now, near the fusion core. No other delegate would even know this place existed. He paused in front of a sealed maintenance hatch. His wrist console buzzed. A single message appeared. You found the door. Ready to step through. Kale stared at the hatch, then back at the message. Who are you? He typed again. This time, the reply came instantly. You already know. You just don't want to believe it. The hatch unlocked with a soft click. Kale hesitated, then pushed it open. Inside, the lights were low. The room was clean, but clearly not part of the normal station design. Panels had been modified. New tech glowed faintly, tech he didn't recognize. And sitting in the corner on a small crate was a woman in a black suit. Human. She stood slowly, calm, not threatening, just watching. Kale's mouth went dry. He had studied humans in theory, seen old images, read filtered reports. But seeing one here in front of him, alive, real, it was something else entirely. You're human. She nodded once. General Sarah Wynn, Earth Defense Command. Kale's instincts screamed at him to call for help, to run, to raise alarms. But he didn't. He stepped inside. The door shut behind him. You were inside this whole time, he said, voice low. Yes. No weapons? No threats. We didn't need them. Kale frowned. Then what do you want? To be seen. Really seen. Not judged by ancient data. Not locked away because you were afraid of what we might become. Kale looked around the room. You could have done more than this. Taken over systems. Crashed the station. Sarah nodded. We could have. But we didn't. We came to show something else. Which is? She stepped closer, eyes level with his. That we can stand beside you, not beneath you. That you're not the only ones who grew in the last 400 years. Kale took a deep breath. You hacked the council. You exposed us. No, she said. We responded. Your people watched us for centuries, but you never truly looked. Kale was quiet. Then he asked, why me? Sarah smiled. Because you're the only one who actually started asking questions. He stared at her, thought for a long moment. Then, finally, he said, what happens next? Sarah's eyes narrowed. That depends on you. Outside, the Revenant floated in silent orbit, unseen, untouched, unshaken. But the galaxy was about to hear humanity's voice. And this time it would not be ignored. Kale stood frozen in the small chamber, staring at the human. General Sarah Wynne didn't flinch. She waited, calm and patient, as if she already knew what his next question would be. You knew I would come, Kale said quietly. Yes, she replied. We've been watching for years. We knew someone would dig deeper, someone curious, someone smart. And when you started following the signals, well, we just gave you a nudge. Kale looked around again. The room was filled with technology far beyond what he recognized. It wasn't flashy. It was quiet, clean, cold. That was what scared him the most. It wasn't trying to impress anyone. It just worked. Why now? He asked. Why did you come to the station? Sarah walked to a small screen on the wall and tapped it. A soft glow appeared, showing a series of images. Earth cities lit at night, hospitals curing diseases, clean energy reactors, children in space learning to fly drones. This is why, she said. Your records think we're violent, primitive. You see our past, not our present. You judge what we were, not what we've become. Kale stared at the images. They were beautiful, different from the pictures he had seen in the Academy's database. Those were all wars and ruins. We've made mistakes, Sarah continued. A lot of them, but we learn, and we never stop pushing forward. Kale shook his head. But you built a warship. You appeared out of nowhere. You hacked our systems. You still sound like a threat. Sarah tilted her head slightly. Would you have listened if we sent a greeting card? He blinked. No, she said. You would have ignored us or laughed. Just like your people laughed when they showed clips of our old history during the summit. He didn't argue. He'd been there. He remembered. We built the Revenant not to fight, she said, but to be the message, to prove we belong here, not by words, but by what we can do. Kale walked slowly toward the screen, staring at the final image. A prototype ship powered by clean energy, orbiting Jupiter. There was no weapon system, just research labs and long-range scanners. Is this real? He asked. Yes, it's called the Horizon, built with peace in mind. Exploration, cooperation, science. We made it hoping someday we'd be allowed out. Kale turned toward her. But you didn't wait. No, she said, folding her arms. Because waiting wasn't working. You locked the doors, shut the windows, and threw away the key. We decided to knock. Kale's mind raced. If this was true, if Earth had come this far, then everything the Academy had taught them was wrong. Or at least incomplete. But there was one more thing nagging at him. The pulse, he said. That blackout. You shut down systems across the station. Sarah didn't deny it. A controlled burst. No one was harmed. No damage done. Just a reminder that we're not behind anymore. That scared people. Good, she said, her voice steady. Fear wakes up the mind. Now they're listening. Kale looked at her for a long time. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't cold. But she was confident in a way that made him uneasy. Not because she was wrong, but because she was right. What do you want me to do? He asked. Sarah tapped the console again. A small chip ejected. She handed it to him. Take this to the council. It has the full truth. Our progress, our plans, our hopes. Let them see the real Earth. Kale held the chip in his hand. It was smooth, warm. And if they refuse? He asked. Then we wait a little longer, Sarah said. And find the next curious mind. Kale stared at the chip. He had come to this room thinking he was hunting a threat. Now he was holding a message. A key. A choice. He slipped the chip into his pouch and stepped back. I'll go. Sarah nodded. We'll be watching. As Kale walked out of the chamber, the door closed behind him with a soft hiss. He didn't look back. The station lights flickered once, then returned to normal. And far above, hidden again in the darkness of space, the Revenant waited. Not as a threat, but as proof. The humans were no longer asking to be seen. They were here to be understood. Kale walked quickly through the station's inner corridors, holding the chip tight in his palm. His heart thumped in his chest. Not from fear, but from something else. Everything had changed. The council thought Earth was still struggling with space travel. They thought humans were emotional, wild, behind the times. But Kale had just seen the truth. Earth was smarter than anyone knew. Stronger, calmer, watching from the shadows, waiting for the right time. And now it was time. He reached the council chamber and paused. Through the tall glass doors, he saw dozens of delegates still arguing. Some shouted for security sweeps. Others demanded Earth be punished. Most were just confused. Kale stepped inside and cleared his throat. No one heard him. Counselors, he said louder. Still nothing. So he walked to the center of the floor, climbed the speaking platform, and raised his voice. I've made contact with the humans. That got their attention. Silence hit the room like a shockwave. Every head turned. What did you say? Counselor Lauren asked sharply, her glow dimming. I spoke with General Sarah Wynne, from Earth Defense Command. Shouts erupted. Questions. Accusations. You're lying. That's impossible. They're not even capable of. Kale lifted his hand and slowly placed the chip on the display table. This holds the truth. About Earth. About their technology. About what they've become. The screen lit up automatically. Dozens of images filled the air above the table. Human cities powered by clean energy. Advanced medicine. Space stations orbiting other planets. Peacekeeping drones. A united Earth. And finally, the Revenant. Silent, black, invisible to all sensors. Gasps filled the room. This can't be real, whispered one delegate. Kale looked around. You think they're behind. But they were never behind. They just stopped trying to impress us. Counselor Reith narrowed her eyes. And what do they want now? Kale hesitated, then spoke clearly. Recognition. Equality. A place in this galaxy not as outsiders, but as peers. Murmurs filled the room again. Some delegates looked unsure. Others looked frightened. High Counselor Venn finally stood. His long silver arms folded behind him. You bring us a message, he said. But it comes with shadows. A warship. A blackout. A secret meeting. That is not diplomacy. They could have done worse, Kale replied. But they didn't. They came carefully. Quietly. They only wanted us to see the truth. Counselor Venn's eyes narrowed. And what if we say no? Kale didn't answer right away. Then quietly he said, Then Earth will wait. But they won't disappear. The room went still. In the silence, a new sound filled the air. A voice. It echoed from every speaker on the station. Greetings, Galactic Council, said General Sarah Wynne. Calm, measured, clear. I am speaking to you now from orbit. We did not come to threaten. We came to begin something new. The screen shifted. Her face appeared, standing on the bridge of the Revenant, surrounded by her quiet crew. You built walls around our planet for centuries. You called us dangerous. We understand why. We were chaotic, divided, loud, but we changed. Images of peaceful cities, united flags, and global cooperation appeared behind her. We studied you, just as you studied us. We didn't knock on your door because we weren't ready. And because you weren't ready either. Now the room was silent, no one interrupting. We don't demand anything, but we will not hide anymore. If you wish to know who we are, we invite you to Earth. If you choose isolation again, we will respect it. But we will not wait in silence. She paused. This is your choice now. Then the message ended. No threats, no demands, just an open door. The screen faded, and the lights in the chamber slowly brightened. Kale looked around at the counselors. They didn't speak. Not yet. But something had shifted. For the first time, Earth wasn't being talked about like a child or a problem. It was being considered as an equal. Outside, the Revenant hovered in the darkness, just beyond the edge of sight. Its engine silent, its weapons untouched. It didn't need to show force. The message had already landed. The station remained quiet long after the message ended. Delegates whispered to each other in low tones. Some looked shaken, others thoughtful. The silence wasn't fear anymore. It was something deeper, something close to respect. Kale stood still at the center of the chamber, watching them, waiting. Then, slowly, High Counselor Ven stepped forward. We need proof, he said. If Earth has changed, as you say, let us see it in action. Kale tilted his head. What kind of proof? A test, Ven replied. A challenge. A live simulation. Strategic. Fair. We see what humans have learned, how they act under pressure. Kale hesitated. They won't like being tested. Then they can decline, Ven said. But if they accept, we give them one chance to prove their growth. No tricks. No hiding. Kale gave a slow nod. I'll relay the message. A few hours later, in Earth's deep-sea command bunker, General Sarah Wynne stood before a round table of military and civilian leaders. Holograms hovered around them, news feeds, council chatter, and live station telemetry. They want a test, she said. A simulation. Strategy-based. No real combat, just tactics. Controlled space, limited resources, time-based objectives. Admiral Run, an older officer with a sharp voice, frowned. They're baiting us. They're giving us a chance, Sarah said. If we win, we prove we're ready. If we lose, they think we're weak again. Colonel Reyes leaned forward. Do we accept? Sarah looked around the table. Then she said simply, yes. The next day, both sides prepared. A neutral zone was chosen, just beyond the outer rings of the station. 2 fleets would enter. No real weapons, just smart drones and command AI. The test would simulate a full-scale space conflict. The rules were simple. Control the zone by the end of the simulation. Most council delegates thought they would win. Earth had only been spacefaring for a few centuries. Their strategies would be primitive. But Earth had changed, and the Revenant was more than just a stealth ship. It was a brain. Inside the command center, Earth's team moved fast and calm. They didn't argue. They didn't boast. Every move was calculated. On the other side, the council forces launched early. Big, wide formations. A classic surround and squeeze tactic. It worked against most species. But not this time. Earth's drones split instantly into dozens of microfleets. They vanished, reappeared, then vanished again. Each time they took key locations, communication points, power relays, scanning satellites. Within minutes, half the battlefield was under human control. The council team was confused. They adjusted, regrouped, tried new angles. But Earth adapted faster. They feinted, trapped, predicted moves before they were made. Kale watched the whole thing from the observer room. His fingers gripped the railing tightly as he leaned forward. This isn't war, whispered a council aide beside him. This is art. By the halfway mark, it was clear who would win. Then Earth made its final move. Instead of finishing with total control, Earth's drones pulled back. They allowed the council fleet to recover part of the zone, just enough to avoid total defeat. The simulation ended. Result: human victory, but not humiliation. Kale exhaled slowly. He understood the message behind the final move. Earth didn't want to dominate. They wanted to share. Later that evening, the council gathered again. The chamber was quiet. General Sarah Wynne stood on the main screen, waiting. High Counselor Ven nodded once. Earth has proven its growth, he said. Not only in strength, but in restraint. Sarah dipped her head. We had to learn both. Ven glanced at Kale. And your messenger made sure we saw it. Kale gave a small smile. Ven turned back to Sarah. Earth will be granted observer status at the next council summit. 1 seat. 1 voice. For now. Sarah didn't argue. That's all we need, she said. The connection ended. Kale stepped out of the chamber and looked up at the stars beyond the glass dome. The humans hadn't demanded a place in the galaxy. They earned it, not by fear, but by showing they had something the council had forgotten. The power to grow, the wisdom to wait, and the strength to win without destroying. 1 week later, the Revenant slowly drifted into a high orbit above Earth. It was no longer hiding, no longer in stealth. The signal was open, its mission complete. Inside the Galactic Academy, far from Earth's blue skies, 5 young alien students sat in a quiet observation lounge, staring at the live feed. Kava, Dren, Mossy, Tilk, and Frey had once laughed at humanity. They had used Earth as a joke for their class project. A backward species, a danger to itself, nothing more. Now they were silent. They won the simulation, Mossy whispered, without even trying to destroy us. They never wanted to, Dren said softly. That's what we didn't understand. Tilk rubbed his forehead. We thought they were primitive because they made weapons. But now I think they made weapons because they hoped they'd never have to use them. Frey stared at the screen. The image of Earth turned slowly, glowing with light. We mocked them, he said. And they came anyway, not to punish, but to teach. Kava hadn't spoken. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. Then he said, they were better students than us. Behind them, the lounge door slid open. Professor Rahl stepped in, hands folded behind his back. His tall frame moved with slow grace, his face unreadable. The council has made a decision, he said. A new program will be created. A cultural exchange between Earth and the Galactic Academy. The 5 students sat up straighter. Earth will send a representative to study here, the professor continued. And 1 group of Academy students will be allowed to visit Earth, under careful supervision. Kava swallowed. Us, the professor nodded. You sent the message. You opened the door. Now you must walk through it. None of them spoke at first. Then Mossy let out a low breath. I thought we were going to be expelled. You still might be, the professor said, almost smiling. If you mess this up. They all chuckled nervously. Later that day, the 5 students stood at the docking bay, backpacks in hand, watching the human shuttle arrive. It wasn't large or shiny. It didn't glow or hum. It was quiet, dark, and simple, and it moved like it didn't need to be noticed. The doors opened, and a tall woman stepped out. Her boots made soft taps on the metal floor. Her uniform was plain gray. Her hair was tied back. Her eyes sharp. She stopped in front of the group. I'm Commander Lin, she said. Welcome to your first human lesson. Frey blinked. Lesson. She smiled just a little. Lesson 1. Never assume a quiet planet has nothing to say. The students stood straighter. Yes, Commander, they said together. The ship rose from the dock, and soon the Academy was behind them. Ahead, Earth waited. Down below, people moved through cities, not knowing what had changed in the stars above. They didn't know a door had opened, that a message had been received. But they would learn. Aboard the shuttle, Kava looked out the window. He remembered how this had started. A joke. Project. A message they thought no one would hear. And now they were the first to go to Earth. He tapped a small screen in front of him. A message was waiting. It had arrived before they boarded. From a human officer named Sarah Wynn. It said, What matters isn't that you underestimated us. It's what you do now that you know better. Kava sat back and let the message sink in. They had a lot to learn. But so did the galaxy. And the humans were ready to teach. Without fear. Without force. Just truth. And that was more powerful than any weapon ever made.